tribe's caught a fluffy hulk. Better watch out, it's no pet. They couldn't keep it down. Fluff hulk's on the loose.
Have you ever had a game that sounds too good to be true? It just doesn't seem possible given the resources, yet the systems are playing out before your eyes. That more or less describes the hype behind Biomutant. Established by former Just Cause developers from Avalanche Studios, Experiment 101 would announce the title in August of 2017, just in time for Gamescom attendees to get their hands on it. Those were the good old days, but even by the standards of AA titles, Biomutant felt like it was doing an absurd amount of things. The story occurs in a post-apocalyptic setting where players customize and control a mutant who must save the Tree of Life. To do that, they'll need to defeat the 5 creatures assailing its roots, but some cooperation with the 6 tribes is paramount. The catch is that 3 have differing opinions on whether they should ensure the tree's survival. The Netra, Ankati, and Myriad are different degrees of light tribes and believe in saving the tree. Meanwhile, the Pichu, Jagni, and Lotus are dark tribes with more selfish and/or megalomaniac views. It's thus up to the player which alignment they pursue, represented as karma. It's possible to embrace the dark side and go on a killing spree with the other tribes, even those that aren't dark aligned, or seek a solution that involves all of them coexisting. Depending on your karma, different dialogue options could pop up while quests change. All of that is ambitious in its own right, but Biomutant was only just getting started. It also featured, in no specific order, character creation, vehicles, including a mech, a dynamic weather system, third-person shooting, beat-em-up combat with multiple combos dubbed Wung-Fu, loot with various affixes, mutations, elemental damage, automatons which provide several functions like boosting your damage or granting the ability to glide, and the list goes on. There's even a narrator, and the world is suitably massive. Again, not impossible for a developer, but the scale and sheer number of systems raised some skepticism about the execution. Though touted as content complete, Biomutant didn't receive much marketing or attention over the next few years. It got bad enough that Experiment 101 even had to clarify that it was still in development. By June 2020, new details and gameplay emerged, and by January of 2021, a release date of May 25th. It seemed all well and good, especially with the developer touting up to 65 hours of gameplay, depending on how the player approached it. However, upon launch, Biomutant received overall mixed reviews. While there were higher scores and praise for its environments, combat, and customization, it attracted criticism for the lack of challenge, derivative systems that other games did better, a dull open world, a multitude of bugs, a boring story, and much more. We gave it a 5 out of 10, praising the boss fights and varied gameplay, but panning the system, seesawing tone, and uninspired morality. It also didn't help that the narrator was initially very talkative and downright annoying, whether in combat or translating the gibberish spoken by characters. Because when you play a post-apocalyptic sci-fi title where some tribes are about the survival of the fittest and culling the weak, you expect Banjo-Kazooie-style gibberish, but I digress.
He says you'll regret not being on their side. The only way you'll learn their secrets, Wung-Fu and the tribe weapon now, is if you defeat him.
Biomutant would have been easy enough to dismiss from the outset if it didn't show so much promise or have such a lengthy development period behind it for such an experienced team. Nevertheless, even in the open world design department, the world felt underwhelming with the same repetitive activities and forgettable characters. To Experiment 101's credit, it sought to address the game's many issues early on. Patch 1.4 went live just a few weeks after launch and revamped the tutorial, removing dialogue and camera presentations for better pacing. It also mercifully toned down the narrator and even provided options to turn him off when characters are talking to each other. Loot drops received some revamps, including less common loot from higher level crates, the new extreme difficulty promised more of a challenge, and the addition of New Game Plus allowed players to select perks from all classes. That's on top of several bug fixes for combat, sound effects, quests, visuals, and much more, while addressing crashes and other bugs. But wait, there's more. A few days later, it further improved on things with another patch, optimizing loot drops, increasing the level cap to 100, adding a field of view type on PC, and even expanding the combat options with melee lock-on and animation canceling for some moves. Random encounters also spawned more frequently, and you could add modifiers to New Game Plus and each additional run of the same to increase the difficulty. This was on top of even more fixes for issues. By August of 2021, it was announced that Biomutant had sold 1 million copies. Not bad, considering the sheer scope of the game and the development team's size. So, what's next? Well, as it turns out, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S versions. It received 3 display options, from performance mode for 1440p 60fps, with Xbox Series S players getting 1080p, to Quality Unleashed for 4K and 40 plus FPS on Xbox Series X and PS5. It also supported the DualSense's adaptive triggers, haptic feedback, and motion controls, and previous gen owners could upgrade to the current gen versions for free. Upon launching in September of 2022 for the new consoles, it once again received mixed reviews. The former stands at a promising 79 Metascore with 5 critical reviews, while the latter has 65 reviews for a 66 Metascore, which is unfortunately more in line with its launch reviews. Despite the many fixes and improvements, many foundational issues with the story, world design, tone, karma system, and whatnot were all still flawed. Biomutant is now available on the Nintendo Switch. I went hands-on with it, and the results are mixed. While it's notable that Experiment 101 brought it over with a reasonably stable frame rate, there are still dips. The overall visual quality is nothing too impressive. Combat and general movement can feel a bit rough at times, and though it's not outright terrible, it still feels like the experience could have been something more. You could say it's harsh to judge a $39.99 game from a smaller team like this, but even after all these years, Biomutant's various parts don't coalesce into a compelling whole, bringing down the entire experience. Less than the sum of its parts, if you will. If you can get into the combat and ignore the goofier elements, it may be worth checking out on discount just to kill a few hours. Given the other options available, especially on the Nintendo Switch, it's a tough sell. Biomutant's legacy remains a strange one. While not a roaring success, it wasn't an abject flop, at least in its launch year. How well it's performed on Xbox Series X and S and PS5 remains unknown, and whether it can find an audience on the Nintendo Switch after all this time is a toss-up. If a sequel ever does come out, hopefully it will expand on the overall universe and present a more compelling story and better world design to leverage its many systems. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.